At the planet's lowest point, a landscape of biblical antiquity is vanishing. The Dead Sea, a basin of hypersaline water cradled in the Jordan Rift Valley, is receding at an alarming pace. Its salt-encrusted shores expand year by year, leaving behind a sterile, alien terrain. Yet within this narrative of decay, a paradox has emerged, one that challenges both scientific understanding and ancient scripture. In the year 2016, Israeli photojournalist Noam Bedin was navigating the northern reaches of the sea. His mission was to document its demise, but his camera captured something that, by all logic, should not exist. In the freshwater pools formed by newly opened sinkholes, he witnessed the impossible: fish darting through the water. The discovery sent ripples through two disparate worlds. Scientists were confronted with a biological anomaly, while theologians saw the materialization of a 2,000-year-old prophecy. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 47, speaks of a time when these toxic waters would turn fresh, when fishermen would cast their nets from its banks. For centuries, it was a metaphor. Suddenly, it was a headline. This strange rebirth is born from the sea's own death throes. As the main body of water shrinks, underground aquifers of fresh water push upward. This fresh water comes into contact with immense ancient layers of salt beneath the surface. The salt dissolves, hollowing out vast, unseen caverns. Without support, the ground above collapses, creating massive sinkholes, gaping wounds in the earth that can swallow roads and buildings whole. These are not merely geological formations, they are nascent oases. Within their depths, life has taken hold. Trees and birds now gather where once there was only salt. Endangered species of fish, carried by the subterranean springs, thrive in these isolated pockets of vitality. Along the banks, driftwood, bleached bone white by the sun, aying testament to nature's capacity for transformation. A ghost town of a sea where the specter of life has unexpectedly returned. Here, more than 430 meters below sea level, the ground itself is rewriting its own story. The dissolution of the past is literally giving way to a new and perhaps prophetic future. It is a place where geology and eschatology have become one, forcing us to wonder if the end of one world is not merely the violent, beautiful beginning of another. It is the lowest place on the face of the earth, a profound depression carved into the planet's crust. This is a landscape scorched by a sun of an almost biblical fury, where summer temperatures routinely climb beyond 45 degrees Celsius. It bears a name that speaks of ultimate finality, the Dead Sea. And for millennia, that name has been an undeniable truth. Its waters, a dense, oily brine, hold a salt concentration of approximately 34%, a mineral saturation nearly 10 times that of the open ocean. Here, nothing swims. No fish can navigate its suffocating depths. No aquatic plants can find purchase in its hypersaline embrace. It is a body of water that rejects the very notion of life, preserving what falls into it in a crystalline tomb. The shores are not sand, but jagged salt formations, a sterile white that crunches underfoot. For centuries, this has been a place of stark, desolate, and mesmerizing beauty, a monument to absence. But this ancient name, the Dead Sea, now whispers a deception. At its shrinking edges, in the land left exposed by its retreat, a violent and paradoxical transformation is underway. The ground itself is beginning to fail. Fresh water, flowing underground from the Judean mountains, is meeting vast subterranean deposits of salt left behind by the receding sea. This water, a force for life everywhere else on Earth, becomes an agent of dissolution here. It carves out immense caverns deep beneath the surface, unseen and unheard, until the fragile crust above can no longer support its own weight. The result is a geological plague of sinkholes. They appear without warning, a sudden, catastrophic collapse. Areas that were once bustling tourist destinations, where thousands floated effortlessly on the buoyant water, are now ghost towns. They are cordoned off with fences and warning signs, the abandoned buildings slowly being reclaimed by the salt and sun. The infrastructure of the modern world has proven powerless. In November of 2018, a section of Israel's Route 90, a vital artery through the region, was simply erased. The ground did not tremble. It opened, swallowing vehicles into a newly formed chasm. By a miracle, there were no fatalities. But the economic and psychological shock was profound. Insurance companies have since withdrawn, declaring the entire area uninsurable. The ledgers of modern finance have deemed this land forfeit, a risk too great to calculate.
Wait, this is not the full story. The most important part is just beginning, and it changes everything we thought we knew.
And yet, these wounds in the earth are not merely voids of destruction. They are the crucibles of an astonishing rebirth. As the freshwater dissolves the salt, it leaves behind a slurry of other minerals, which stain the pools that form within the sinkholes. A palette of impossible hues now splashes across the monochrome landscape. Patches of vibrant emerald green, brilliant turquoise, and deep sapphire blue emerge, their colors so intense they seem almost supernatural. Pigments of a world being born from the collapse of another. These oases, born of chaos, have become unexpected sanctuaries. Around their perimeters, a revolution is underway. Against the sterile white of the salt flats, a defiant green has taken root. Lush reeds and tall grasses, nourished by the less saline water, now wave in the desert breeze. Trees have begun to grow, their roots reaching down into freshwater reserves that, according to the old logic of this place, should not exist. This sudden explosion of vegetation has not gone unnoticed. The sky, once empty, is now filled with birds. These freshwater sinkholes have become vital resting spots for migratory species on their epic journeys between Africa and Europe, the land rejoining the great rhythms of the planet. And then came the most incredible discovery of all. Reports began to filter out from local observers, stories of fish swimming in the sinkhole waters. At first, the scientific community was skeptical. It seemed a biological impossibility. How could fish survive in an ecosystem so intimately connected to the deadliest body of water on Earth? But the evidence became undeniable. As fresh water continues to seep in, creating stable pockets of life-sustaining salinity, entire microecologies are forming. Life has found a foothold. Here, in the lowest place on Earth, we are witness to a profound and unsettling truth. The very process that tears the ground apart, that swallows roads and ruins economies, is the same process that allows a seed to sprout, a bird to drink, and a fish to swim. The sinkholes are a paradox made manifest, agents of both ruin and renewal. They serve as a powerful, humbling reminder that destruction is not always an end. Sometimes it is simply the violent, unpredictable, and terrifyingly beautiful beginning of something new. In the lowest place on Earth, a body of water has long served as a metaphor for finality. Throughout recorded history, the Dead Sea was known as a realm devoid of visible, complex life. Ancient historians meticulously documented its profound sterility. Medieval travelers, crossing the sun-scorched Judean wilderness, wrote of its suffocating desolation. Modern science, with its advanced tools and rigorous analysis, simply confirmed what the ages already knew. Its extreme, suffocating salinity meant that no plant, no fish, no creature could possibly thrive in its depths. It was a closed chapter, a liquid tomb. Then came the year 2011. A team from Ben Gurion University prepared to challenge millennia of accepted truth. They embarked on the first ever systematic diving expedition into the Dead Sea, a mission so fraught with peril it had never before been attempted. The water itself was the primary adversary. Its extreme salinity makes standard diving equipment behave with dangerous unpredictability. Buoyancy is so intense, so violently aggressive, that it threatened to hurl the divers back to the surface. To simply descend, they had to be burdened with extraordinary weights, a crushing burden just to sink into the abyss. What they discovered shattered the scientific consensus. On the seafloor, they found vast, yawning craters, some as wide as 15 meters and 20 meters deep. And within these chasms, a revelation. The floors were not barren stone, but were carpeted with thick, living microbial mats, actively releasing plumes of fresh water from hidden aquifers below. Dr. Danny Ionescu of the Max Planck Institute for Marine Microbiology expressed the team's astonishment. While researchers had known for decades that the name
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. because what you're about to see will change everything.
Dead Sea was a misnomer on a microscopic level, he explained. The rich variety of life flourishing in the vicinity of these freshwater springs was entirely unexpected. Some of these microorganisms had never been known to survive in such highly saline environments. Others were entirely new species, organisms never before documented by science. This expedition unearthed compelling physical evidence of something long declared by ancient prophecies. The Dead Sea was not entirely dead. It was, and is, in a state of profound transformation. This process is not confined to the hidden depths. Along the receding shorelines, as the water level drops, a strange and paradoxical healing is taking place. Destructive sinkholes, which swallow the very ground, are formed when fresh groundwater dissolves subterranean salt layers. Yet in these isolated pockets, the salinity is slowly decreasing to levels that can, miraculously, support life. The Arabian tooth carp and the Jordan River tilapia, fish native only to this specific region, have been spotted and documented, their silver bodies flashing in the newly formed pools. Some sinkholes now support thriving, complex populations. At Inot Sukim, a freshwater oasis clinging to the northern shores, the Israel Nature and Parks Authority faced this paradox head-on. In 2011, manager Eldad Hazan convinced his partners to invest approximately 2.5 million shekels in a massive pumping project. The initial goal was defensive, to redirect the precious fresh water before it could create additional treacherous sinkholes. But from this act of preservation, an unexpected benefit emerged. The project created a series of permanent freshwater holding pools, a carefully engineered sanctuary. Today, these pools protect endangered fish species from extinction and provide a vital habitat for thousands of migratory birds. Over 120,000 visitors now come to Anat Sukim each year, witnessing a testament to the sheer tenacity of life. Here, we arrive at the heart of why these geological and biological shifts matter so profoundly to millions of believers worldwide. This newfound life, both in the deep and on the shore, aligns with stunning precision to prophecies recorded thousands of years ago. In the ancient book of Zechariah, chapter 14, verse 8, we find these words, "On that day, living water will flow out from Jerusalem." The text goes on to describe this water flowing eastward, to the sea of the desert, healing its waters. For many, the sight of fish swimming where for centuries there was only brine, and the discovery of new life blooming on the seabed, is not a scientific curiosity. It is the stirring of a promise, the physical manifestation of a world being remade. It suggests that even in the most desolate of places, in a landscape synonymous with judgment, life does not just endure. It is reborn. From the Sacred Heart of Jerusalem, a living current is foretold to cleave the landscape, an ancient artery splitting in two, its lifeblood destined for opposing seas. One branch is prophesied to reach westward for the cerulean embrace of the Mediterranean, the other to descend eastward into the saline depths of the Dead Sea. This is not the fleeting rush of a seasonal wadi, born of winter rains and gone by summer. The prophecy is explicit. This flow will be perpetual, a permanent and elemental transformation of the land itself. Jerusalem, perched high in the Judean mountains, stands as the precise, unmistakable wellspring of this vision, its geography a perfect match for the words of the prophet Zechariah. But this is merely a single thread in a far more intricate tapestry of prophecy. For the most detailed and astonishing account, we must travel back in time to the 6th century before the Common Era. A prophet named Ezekiel, living in the bitterness of the Babylonian exile around 597 BC, received a vision not of despair, but of miraculous renewal. In captivity, far from his desecrated homeland, he saw something so granular, so geographically specific, that it has echoed through more than 2.5 millennia of scholarly debate. He saw water, a mere trickle at first, flowing from the temple toward the eastern region. It descended into the great rift of the Arabah, the Jordan Valley, on an inexorable course toward the Dead Sea. And as this sacred current empties into that famously sterile basin, a fundamental alchemy occurs. The water, he prophesied, becomes fresh. The vision explodes with vitality. Swarms of living creatures will teem where the river flows. The sea, once a symbol of death, will surge with vast schools of fish, because this water will have healed the salt. Where the river flows, everything will live. The prophecy does not trade in vague allegory. It names places. Fishermen, it declares, will stand along the shore, casting their nets from En-Gedi to Eneglaim. En-Gedi, a verdant oasis, a splash of impossible green against the ochre cliffs of the western shore, is a known landmark to this day. Eneglaim remains a subject of scholarly inquiry, a geographic mystery waiting to be solved. Yet its inclusion anchors the vision in a tangible physical world, transforming a spiritual promise into a geographical map. For centuries, these words remained confined to scripture, a promise of a distant, perhaps
Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost
metaphorical future. But in the modern era, strange reports have begun to surface from the edge of the Salt Sea. Among them is the account of Samantha Siegel, a Jewish American woman drawn to the stark wilderness near Jerusalem. She sought solitude, a place for meditation amid the ancient stones, and found her way to an isolated sinkhole, a geological scar in the earth near the Dead Sea. And there, in the clear, fresh water that fed this pool, she saw movement. It was something that should not have been there, fish. Small, resilient fish, swimming in a pool whose overflow trickled towards the Dead Sea basin itself. At first, it was a simple curiosity, a biological anomaly in a famously lifeless region. But later, in the quiet of the evening, the weight of the moment descended. The ancient words of the prophets, learned in childhood, came rushing back not as history, but as a headline. This was not merely nature finding a way. This was scripture unfolding in recess. Her experience raises a profound question. Are these isolated ecological quirks the result of shifting water tables and freshwater aquifers breaching the surface? Or are they the first tremors of a prophecy stirring from its long slumber? The line between geology and theology has always been thin in this land. And here, in the lowest place on earth, the water holds more than just salt. It holds the memory of ancient promises and perhaps the seeds of a future that was written in stone thousands of years ago. Here, at the lowest place on earth, the air is thick with the weight of millennia. This is the Dead Sea, a basin of hypersaline water cradled in the Jordan Rift Valley. A landscape so stark, so seemingly hostile to existence, that its very name is a declaration of finality. For centuries, it has been a symbol of absolute desolation, its waters inhospitable to all but the most resilient of microorganisms. But here, at the fringes of this legendary wasteland, the earth is opening up. Wounds in the cracked soil reveal impossible pools of cerulean blue. These are sinkholes, geological scars born from a changing water table. And within them, something unthinkable is stirring. For one woman, a weekly visitor named Siegel, this was not a geological event. It was revelation. She was watching a prophecy from the book of Ezekiel come to life before her very eyes. Adding to the profound spiritual significance of the moment, she witnessed a family of ducks, paddling serenely in a freshwater pond, raising their young where biology dictates life should cease. This single, quiet scene became a powerful narrative of restoration, a living echo of ancient promises about resurrection, about dead things returning to life, about hope emerging from the very epicenter of hopelessness. Even years after her initial discovery, Siegel continues her pilgrimage. "It is the best thing to keep me sane and connected to Hashem," she shares. Her ongoing visits have become a mission, a methodical documentation of the continuous emergence of life in these unexpected oases. She has created what amounts to a photographic record of prophecy in motion, a testament etched in light against the backdrop of a dying sea. The phenomenon has not gone unnoticed. Israeli guide Jackie Benzikin confirms that the transformation has captured the scientific imagination. Approximately 160 researchers from nearly every major university in Israel are now studying the profound changes remaking this ancient landscape. Sinkholes are caused by fresh water running under the ground, Benzikin explains, detailing the subterranean mechanics. It meets the sediment layers of salt and melts them from below, causing the surface to collapse. The science is clear. Yet for Benzikin and other guides who walk this land daily, the how does not diminish the why. They perceive something beyond mere geological processes. They see a celestial hand guiding the terrestrial.
Stay with me. because what comes next has been hidden for a very long time. And only a few people know the truth behind it.
A case of natural means accomplishing supernatural ends. It is in the reflection on this spiritual symbolism that the deepest meaning is found. Ezekiel offers a profound metaphor, one born from the unique physics of this very place. The Dead Sea is the nadir of the Earth's surface, a physical analog for hitting absolute bottom, the place where one cannot sink any further. It represents the lowest point of despair, the final valley of human experience. And yet, it is here that the laws of nature offer a strange and profound grace. The extreme salinity, the very agent of its lifelessness, creates a buoyancy so powerful that drowning is a virtual impossibility. No matter how one struggles, no matter how hard one tries to sink, the water lifts you up, holding you effortlessly on its surface. Ezekiel saw in this physical law a spiritual truth. She compared this relentless buoyancy to God's presence in our darkest moments. Just as we cannot sink in the Dead Sea, she explained, we can find comfort in knowing that a higher power is always there to lift us up from our lowest points. When life has taken everything, when you feel you have descended into the deepest abyss, that is precisely where this divine buoyancy becomes most evident. You cannot sink below that love. You cannot fall beyond that reach. This spiritual metaphor resonates with a powerful, universal truth, transforming the Dead Sea from a mere geographic location into a living parable. It becomes a physical demonstration of a theological principle, a tangible lesson for all who feel weighed down by the challenges of life. This land has always been one of extremes, a place of dramatic transformation. Despite its current barren state, both biblical and archaeological evidence confirms that the area was once astonishingly different. The book of Genesis, in chapter 13, verse 10, describes the plain of Tile. This was not poetic exaggeration. Archaeological surveys have unearthed the ghosts of a vibrant past, evidence of extensive ancient agriculture and thriving communities in areas that are now utterly desolate. From a garden to a wasteland, and now, perhaps, something new is being born from the decay. These small pockets of impossible life, documented by a faithful observer and studied by a legion of scientists, are more than ecological curiosities. They are symbols that suggest even in the lowest, most barren places on Earth, and within ourselves, the seeds of life persist, waiting for the fresh water of hope to dissolve the salt of our despair. It is a quiet testament that what appears to be an end may simply be the prelude to a transformation. In the deep scar of the Jordan Rift Valley, where the air hangs thick and heavy below the level of the sea, lieth dissolved earth that life, as we know it, cannot take root. This is the Dead Sea, a landscape of stark, crystalline beauty and profound desolation. Yet ancient traditions hold that this was not always a wasteland. They speak of a time when the valley was a thriving, well-watered plain, home to cities legendary for their opulence and moral decadence. According to the Chronicles of Genesis, these cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, were incinerated in a storm of fire and brimstone, a cataclysm of divine judgment. For millennia, this narrative has echoed as a cautionary tale. Whether interpreted as a supernatural act or a memory of some tectonic catastrophe, the result was absolute. A fertile valley was transformed into a monument of salt-encrusted earth. The book of Deuteronomy captures the aftermath with chilling clarity. The whole land, it says, was burned out with brimstone and salt, a scorched place where nothing was planted, nothing sprouted, and no vegetation could grow. It became a silent, sterile witness to its own violent end. In the long arc of theological thought, this sea of death became a potent symbol, a physical manifestation of spiritual consequence, a stark reflection of rebellion and its final, desolate price. It stands as a geographical scar, a perpetual reminder of a world undone. But in the ancient scrolls, this landscape of death is not the final word. Buried within the prophetic literature is a vision so radical, it seems to defy the very laws of nature. It speaks not of enduring judgment, but of a complete and miraculous restoration. Two prophets, Ezekiel and Zechariah, writing centuries apart, foresaw a future age, a millennial kingdom where the Messiah would reign from Jerusalem. And from the very heart of this reign, from beneath the foundation of the Holy Temple Mountain, a river would be born. This is no ordinary current of water. It is described as living water, imbued with supernatural, life-giving properties. Its prophesied journey is precise. It will flow eastward from Jerusalem, descending through the rugged Kidron Valley, carving a path through the Judean wilderness until it spills into the Dead Sea basin itself. And as it flows, it will perform an act of cosmic healing, transforming everything it touches. The vision granted to the prophet Ezekiel, recorded in the 47th chapter of his book, describes this transformation in breathtaking detail. An angelic guide leads Ezekiel to the bank of the nascent river. At first, the water is a mere trickle, reaching only to his ankles, but the guide leads him onward. After a measure of 1,000 cubits, the current has risen to his knees. They press on for another 1,000 cubits, and the water now reaches his waist. After a final measure of 1,000 cubits, the stream has become a torrent, a mighty river that he could not cross, for the water had risen, waters to swim in, a river that could not be passed. This steady, inexorable deepening is more than a simple hydrological event. It symbolizes a divine power that begins quietly but grows irresistibly, swelling into an unstoppable force of renewal that cannot be contained or turned back. The prophecy declares its ultimate effect. Where the river flows, everything will live. The hypersaline waters will be healed. The barren shores will burst forth with trees, and the sea itself will teem with fish, its ecosystem resurrected from a state of ancient death. To understand the staggering power of this vision, one must return to the moment it was given. Ezekiel prophesied around the year 597. Before the Common Era, arguably the darkest hour in the history of his people. Jerusalem had been conquered, its walls breached, its sacred temple, the center of their universe, reduced to rubble. The nation's survivors were driven into exile in Babylon, hundreds of miles from a homeland that now seemed lost forever. It was in this crucible of despair, amidst the ruins of a fallen kingdom, that this vision of impossible restoration was born. A promise of a life-giving river flowing from a city that no longer stood, healing a sea defined by its deadness. For centuries of diaspora and persecution, this improbable hope sustained a people, a testament to the belief that even the most desolate of landscapes and the most broken of histories are not beyond the reach of redemption. It poses an eternal question. Can a place of ultimate endings truly become the source of a new beginning? In the stark Judean wilderness, at the lowest point on the face of the earth, lies a body of water that is a tableau of profound stillness. The Dead Sea. For millennia, its name has been its identity, a hypersaline grave where no fish can swim, no plant can take root. It is an emblem of finality. Yet this seemingly lifeless expanse serves as a vast, shimmering metaphor for the nation that surrounds it. For 2,000 years, the Jewish people were a nation in diaspora, scattered to the four corners.
Most people stop watching right here. But if you continue, you'll discover something almost no one knows. Welcome to my channel. If you're fascinated by hidden truths, lost civilizations, and unsolved mysteries, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss what's coming next. Because what you're about to see will change everything.
For millennia, its name has been its identity, a hypersaline grave where no fish can swim, no plant can take root. It is an emblem of finality. Yet this seemingly lifeless expanse serves as a vast, shimmering metaphor for the nation that surrounds it. For 2,000 years, the Jewish people were a nation in diaspora, scattered to the four corners of the earth. They were a people defined by absence, their ancestral homeland. A distant memory whispered in synagogues from Marrakesh to Moscow. Marginalized, persecuted, they appeared to be a finished chapter in the annals of history. And yet, in the year 1948, against the calculus of all probability, the state of Israel was reborn from the ashes of a world at war. It was a moment that seemed to echo an ancient, almost forgotten promise. In the prophecies of Ezekiel, chapter 37, a vision unfolds of a valley of dry bones, bleached and scattered by time. The prophet is asked, "Son of man, can these bones live?" The answer comes not in words, but in a divine act, a rattling sound, the knitting of sinews, the covering of flesh, and the return of breath. A dead nation resurrected. As Jews returned from over 100 countries to the land of their forefathers, many saw not a political development, but the literal fulfillment of this staggering vision. This event anchors a much larger claim: the startling precision of biblical prophecy. Scholars who have dedicated their lives to these ancient texts estimate that of the specific prophecies laid out by Ezekiel, a staggering 81% have already been fulfilled with documented historical accuracy. These are not the vague pronouncements of a roadside oracle, open to endless interpretation. They are detailed predictions involving specific names, geographic locations, and political circumstances that could only be satisfied in one precise manner. The remaining 19% concern events yet to unfold, among them, the complete and total transformation of the Dead Sea. The argument, therefore, presents itself with a stark and compelling logic. If such a vast majority has come to pass with unerring exactness, what reasonable basis exists for doubting the remainder? We are, according to this worldview, living witnesses to an era of unprecedented prophetic significance. The biblical theme of life emerging from death, of resurrection and renewal, is not merely a theological concept. It is a force visibly shaping the world. What Ezekiel described 2,600 years ago, a vision of fresh water flowing from the temple in Jerusalem down into the desert and healing the dead waters, is actively transitioning from allegory into physical reality. The evidence is beginning to collect along the sea's receding shores. The main body of water remains as saline and inhospitable as ever. But in the periphery, something impossible is happening. As the water level drops, vast sinkholes pockmark the landscape, craters of collapse and destruction. Yet within these very wounds, freshwater springs have begun to bubble up from subterranean aquifers. In these isolated pools, shielded from the lethal brine, life has found a foothold. Fish, carried by underground currents, now dart through the shallows. Hardy plants and reeds have taken root, creating pockets of impossible green against the white salt flats. Migratory birds, for the first time in recorded history, are returning to these nascent oases. The process has begun. For those who hold to a literal interpretation of prophecy, this is no mere ecological anomaly. It is divine orchestration. It is God setting the stage, arranging the pieces for a final act that will culminate in the return of the Messiah and the establishment of a promised kingdom on earth. The rejuvenation of the Dead Sea, however gradual, serves as both a sign and a solemn promise. That which is declared will come to pass, regardless of how impossible it may seem, regardless of how long the wait. But the transformation also carries a message that transcends theology, speaking to a universal human condition. Just as this sea, Earth's deepest depression, is experiencing an unexpected renewal, so too can any life touched by tragedy or despair find restoration. The sinkholes, which first appeared as symbols of decay and loss, became the very sanctuaries for life's return. It suggests that sometimes the deepest scars on the landscape, the darkest valleys of our own existence, are not an end. They are the groundwork for miracles we cannot yet imagine. In the lowest place on Earth, a transformation is underway, one that transcends geology and enters the realm of prophecy. For millennia, this basin of salt and silence has been a monument to lifelessness. Yet now, an impossible whisper is stirring in its depths. This awakening is far more than a shift in water chemistry or the return of aquatic life. For millions, it is a living parable, a physical manifestation of themes woven into the very fabric of Scripture. Hope emerging from the clutches of a demonstration that no place is too forsaken, no condition too desolate, to be beyond the reach of a life-giving touch. The question then arises, what does one call a sea that has shed its identity of death? Will it reclaim a name from a forgotten age, or will it require a new title altogether? One that speaks not of endings, but of a vibrant, impossible beginning? That question remains open, as does the timeline for its ultimate fulfillment. But one truth is undeniable. The Dead Sea is no longer entirely dead. The ancient words, once confined to scrolls and sermons, are now etched into the landscape itself, witnessed by a generation that had long considered them metaphor. Whether this is the dawn of a prophesied age, or merely a tremor before a greater seismic shift in history, remains to be seen. Yet, the fact that it is happening at all, that life is returning to a domain where it has been absent for thousands of years, offers a profound and resonant message. In the most barren of places, the story is never truly over.